Aye, 63 noes, 57. Clause 2 as amended will stand part. The question is that Clause 3 stand part. Clause 3 is the Principal Act amended. Darian Fenton.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I was really looking forward to taking a call on the last clause, but however, I'll make do on this one because I think it's worth discussing exactly what we are amending under Clause 3 of the Principal Act, the Employment Relations Act. What we are amending, and it sounds, what we are amending is quite a significant part of the rights of employees under the Employment Relations Act. It sounds really simple and easy to say, oh, well, workers should have it, there should be a secret ballot for strikes and, let's put it in this amendment and who's got a problem with it and it's about democracy and so on. But I don't think that the members opposite understand what this is going to involve in the change and red tape and all sorts of compliance. Absolutely. This is going to require for unions, and if members had looked up, the honourable member didn't speak to his SOP 195, but if you look at it closely, Mr Chair, and it amended Clause 2 and goes on to put some other things in it, because what this bill will require is that unions actually have to amend their rules because this Act is being amended. The Principal Act, the Employment Relations Act, is being amended. It will require unions who have to be registered under the Principal Act, the Employment Relations Act, under Clause 14. They have to be registered as unions. There's a whole provision in there that says when they're entitled to be registered as a union. There's a whole lot of rules about them having to be democratic, not unreasonable, not unfairly discriminatory, not contrary to law, and, interestingly, independent and at arm's length from employers. But yet here we have a provision where we're amending the Principal Act that will actually allow employers to interfere in the democratic processes of unions. Unions will have to change their rules, and I don't think, because it's been a while since the member and the chair has been involved in unions, he understands the requirements of the Incorporated Societies Act and the provisions in the Employment Relations Act. The requirements a union has to go through to change their rules. They have to get their members to approve them. And the union I come from, the Service and Food Workers Union, Mr Chair, that involved having something like 50 meetings throughout the country to get 50 stop work meetings, so that meant arranging it with employers so that workers could be released, and that's not always easy. It's a cost on employers, but it meant also arranging them, getting them to the meeting, and so that they were able to vote on the changes of rules that this bill is going to require. This bill will require that unions change their rules so that they have a provision in the rules as set out in SOP 195, that they have a provision relating to the process for holding a secret ballot. Now, I think that unions could have lived with that, and certainly I have an amendment a bit later on that just proposes that's all this bill needs to do. All this bill needs to do is amend the Employment Relations Act so that unions have to have in their rules a provision for holding secret ballots. And then, in a democratic way, the unions themselves, with their members, decide what the process is. And that's exactly what all of the international conventions around freedom of association, the whole tenor and support for freedom of association and collective bargaining of the Employment Relations Act, that's what it's all about. It's about unions being independent of employers. It's about them being able to be to run their own business, just as employers' organisations are able to. No one in this bill will not require employer organisations or shareholders to go and amend their rules and go through the process that unions are going to be required to do. So I think that when we're talking about amending the Principal Act, everyone needs to understand what's being asked here. We are imposing a whole lot of red tape, not only on unions, but also on employers. Employers will be affected by this because unions are going to have to go through a process of changing their rules, and in order for them to do that, employers are going to have to comply, they're going to have to cooperate, or the rules will not be able to be changed. And then, over a period of time, those unions will become, they will be in breach of this amended Act. So, Mr Chair, I think that there's a whole lot of other reasons that we oppose the bill that we'll get into a bit later, but I think that the House needs to understand that the amendment that we're doing is going to have...
Michael Woodhouse.
Mr Chair. Thank you, Mr Chairman. I just want to take a quick call on this particular part because this is actually at the heart of the